chapter 2. So far, so good. I really like Guardian of the Witches. I like the art so far. I like the main character. The main character is definitely one of the stronger portions of the series. And even with the other ones, like obviously, Undead Unluck's one. I think that one though has probably the strongest main character out of these latest new three, just because he's so weird. But the way that the world is set up in Undead Unluck isn't. I don't think it's as interesting in that whole layout as Guardian of the Witch was. With Guardian of the Witch, we know that everything seems to kind of really just be confined in these cities, and we don't know how often they go to these other ones. We don't know how many there are. We don't even know like the way that the world is outside of these walls. And I can again see where people have compared it to like Attack on Titan, which is funny because you got a scene in this chapter that actually really felt like it for a moment. But as it were, you have Fafnir, Manaspa, and Nada, and they're ditching the kingdom. They're getting out of there. They have to in order to keep Manaspa alive, because they don't want to let her eat like her old like evil seed progress any further to where she'll become one of the the evils that will be a danger for the city and for the people around her. But Nada's like not happy about this at all. She went along only because Manaspa wants to do this, but she absolutely didn't want to do this because she knows that she's gonna eventually become one of these evil monsters. She's eventually gonna become one of these horrifying creatures, and I'm hoping that it's gonna be like, if they're powerful enough, they'd be like retain sanity and maybe become humanoid or something, and maybe there's more of them out there in the world. That's just one of those plots like that I always really enjoy in the idea of, because then you have like, well, how do these monsters live? It's kind of like with Bleach, you had the Hollows, and then you eventually saw like kind of like the upper class ones with like the Arrancar and stuff. That I'm hoping kind of to get something like that, where we see a lot of these evils, but maybe we learn a little bit about them. They're not all just, maybe like the fact that they're called evils is just to kind of throw you off, and maybe they're not actually like, maybe they aren't actually just horrifying mindless creatures. Who knows? But now, like she's saying how the evil seed that's inside of Manaspa though, in comparison to most, which is actually stronger than the average, and she really wanted her to push herself into being like etched into like the histories of the city, so that she would always be remembered as like an honorable witch. But now she's going to be remembered as like a traitor to the state, and Nada's not happy about it. But here's the thing, you can kind of look at it like that, and then from her perspective, and why that would be a nice thing. But really, Manaspa is the one that should get to choose what her whole like what she leaves behind and how she lives her life, because it's not really fair the way that she's been presented. I mean, I like the structure of the witches isn't really like they just get forced to do it. Most of them die, and only a handful of them end up getting these powers and getting these positions, and they expect them just to kind of be chained weapons until they end up need to be executed. And that gives them really no choice. I mean, it's other than that, you stay and you get food and you live on this tower, and then eventually someone's gonna kill you, or you're gonna turn into a monster. And she gets her whole kind of like point on this once once she wakes up and she talks to him, and she knows that even though that she really likes her image, she's like a very she really likes looking good. She's like, she knows that once she turns into one of these monsters, she'll look like a horrifying creature. But even if she ends up becoming that in the end, she wants to live a happy life up until that point, and maybe even once she becomes one of these evils, still enjoy like aspects of living. So it's really up to her decision. I think it's fully up to her decision about just the idea behind it, because I mean, both paths are very difficult ones, where she either stays and ends up either dying or becoming a monster, or she ends up like running from them and running from the state, becoming a criminal. And in the process, I think they'll either find a way for her, when she becomes one of these evil creatures, to retain her sanity again, like a humanoid version, or find out a way to like suppress it, find out a way to cure it. We know that's kind of going to be kind of the goal of the series, because it's an infection. There has to be either some way to tame it or to cure it. That's kind of like what I'm aiming for this stuff. But as it were, are like, we need to make it out of here. And actually, there was two like little Attack on Titan, I think, nods when Fafnir bites his hand, and it just makes me obviously think of, you know, Eren doing that. But when they're all running towards the wall, I mean, he's like, he says it's kind of like part of his routine, like he's trying to remind himself the taste of pain before he goes and fights, just to kind of get him in that mindset, which is pretty cool. But while running, he's got like Fafnir Nada tied to him by rope, and I was like, what is he gonna like scale the wall, or is he gonna end up like destroying part of it, like with a big attack? And because like it'd be like, if he used like a big attack, like explosion from it, like maybe the shockwave would push them back, and he wants to keep them like steady. But he ends up unsheathing his sword and ties the rope to the sheath and throws the sheath just like kind of like a javelin into like the big clock tower bell, which goes over the side of the wall, and then the weight pulls them down and they ride on the way out. And this panel, one, it looks great. It's a really just eye-catching panel, the way that it really, you see this big vast landscape outside of the Walden City, and really like what else is out there for him. But also it does really look kind of like an Attack on Titan panel, and it's funny because what's funny actually on top of that is I thought about, like, you know how they have the two little containers where they keep their swords? I mean, he's got two chicks. I mean, that kind of counts. He's got two places to put a weapon. Anyway, from there, now that they're making it outside the walls, and I'm guessing they're going to be, you know, going on the run soon. And I'm hoping for, so one of the things that, I don't know how many people watching this will have actually read Attack on Titan or watched it, but I got like way early, I guess not like at the beginning of the series. It was like right after the anime came out, because, you know, I found out, you know, it existed right when the whole hype train started. But I had my own theories because I, you know, watched the anime, and then I got into the manga, and when I got caught up, it was right when it was right around the time when the Beast Titan was first introduced. You know, just this big talking Yeti guy, and I was like, oh wow, this one can talk. He seemed intelligent, and I was wondering, well, maybe there's like a, you know, a civilization of them somewhere, like where there are intelligent Titans. But, you know, we already know how things went in that. But I'm wondering what, like, we're gonna see outside of these walls. Like, maybe there are civilizations where people still live, because you can still have like the, you know, villages and stuff without having to be towards these like walled-in city-states. This is where you'd logically run to strong people. Because anywhere that they would go that isn't, you know, within this big walled-in city protected by witches, you would end up finding people that, you know, have kept alive because of their strength, because of their abilities. Other people like Fafnir, who have honed themselves to be, like, able to contend with these monsters. Which just opens up, like, a lot of questions, like, or a lot of, I guess, a lot of potential and questions of what's going to come up with this series. One character we haven't seen yet is, like, the rival character, whoever Fafnir is, you know, his opposing guy within the main cast will be. I doubt it's going to be Nada, but I mean, it could be. It'd be a real shocker if it was her. But I think maybe it'll be like whenever they go to a village within the next couple chapters or something, maybe they run into some other guy who's like a warrior that has been training, doing all these things, and for some reason ends up going with them, ends up like having like a rivalry with Fafnir. Because that is one of those things that, I don't know, it would feel weird to not have a rival. I always do, like, even if it's not like straight, like kind of like Austin, you know, where they very much kind of balance each other, and they're always pushing each other, and they have that synergy. Even if they have more of kind of like a Natsu and Gray thing, where they're more of buds that kind of beef, but they still have kind of like an opposing side thing. But it's not like, I see you as my rival, I'm competing against you. It's just kind of like they're in that role without having as much detail to the position as someone like Austin, you know, kind of like. You know what I mean, where it's, you can be a rival character. Again, another one would be like Luffy and Zoro. Zoro kind of fits into that rival spot, but he's not a rival to Luffy. They kind of, in still some ways, kind of encourage each other, but it's not the exact same kind of setup for them. But anyway, comment below. Tell me your thoughts are about this chapter. Again, are you enjoying this series so far? I'm really looking forward to seeing how some of like the power setups are going to be, because there was a showing in the first chapter about rings, and doing a little bit of research into Fafnir, there were rings in his lore. Like the original character Fafnir, the dragon, not this character, the one that I assume that the name is you know, stemmed from. We'll probably get some like enchanted rings or something, maybe enchanted weapons, and you'll have like witches are casters, but you can still have certain characters use like powered weapons or items, but it's only from these trinkets. I don't know. Anyway, other than that, comment below. Tell me your thoughts about this chapter and this series so far. Really appreciate you thumbs up the video. And the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But then I appreciate when you've already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.